Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about skincare changes you might want to consider for summer. Now, as warmer weather, greater humidity arises, maybe you're in an office with air conditioning, maybe not at this particular year, but you never know. Some people are going into the office. There are some key considerations, I think, in terms of ensuring smooth continuation of your actives regime and to ensure adequate protection of your skin from extra UV. Now, hydration is probably the obvious step to think about making adjustments to in summer. Heat, shine, all of that stuff can make us just more dewy than we want to be, so our winter moisturizer may not cut it. So what are your options? So firstly, I think it's worth considering whether or not you need moisturizer in the daytime at all, because I think if a sunscreen, which should be a given that you're wearing sunscreen every day, if the vehicle is correctly chosen, you may be one of the lucky ones and you may be able to wear just that and get enough hydration from your sunscreen step to make it an unnecessary thing for the daytime. Now, this will require that your sunscreen is a nice primer and doesn't dry out and go patchy over the course of the day, but I think that is achievable with modern formulations. The next thing to think about that might enable you to cut back on your hydration needs is whether you can get away with using a richer moisturizer at night, which will be very helpful in helping manage any dryness that you might get from your active routine at nighttime. And that can sometimes create extra space in the daytime because your barrier is very well looked after from the nighttime application of moisturizer. So maybe you don't need to apply your moisturizing step all over, maybe you just do a little bit around the eyes, a little bit around the mouth, areas where the skin moves quite a lot. So you're paring back on what you need in the daytime. If that doesn't work for you, then it may just be a simple matter of changing formulation. So going from using something that maybe is a more cream, balm, nourishing type format to something that's more of a light gel. So consideration number 2 is for those who are treating hyperpigmentation. Now, it may surprise you, but summertime is often the time where I actually put my foot on the pedal and I accelerate treatment. And that's twofold. One, obviously there's more UV and visible light around us than there would be in winter time. And 2, we want skin that has as little coverage on it as possible because of longer daylight hours. So I think it's a natural thing to want the skin in the best possible condition. So for many of my melasma patients, which is one of the commonest and perhaps hardest to treat forms of hyperpigmentation, we will consciously look at the year and work out when we want the skin to be at its best, because that will determine which actives we use when. And it doesn't surprise me that many of them want the summer to be their best time of year. So that will often mean switching up from something that's maybe more of a holding position, maintenance treatment for pigmentation, to something on prescription like 4% hydroquinone, which I might do for a sort of 8 to 12 week period in conjunction with retinoids and vitamin C. And of course, diligent sunscreen use and reapplication, proper hat, all the tools that are needed to keep UV away from the skin. Next thing I think about, following on from the talk about hyperpigmentation, is the sunscreen. Do we need to think about changing the properties of someone's all year round sunscreen for summer specifically? And I think there are a few instances where you might be better off. So I think it obviously depends a lot on where you live and how strong the UV levels are. But if you're going to be out and about during the day for meaningful periods of time and you can't avoid shade, then I think the best thing to do is to seek out a tinted sunscreen. So where you might normally wear an untinted one underneath your makeup, I would go tinted and try to use that as your base so that you really do have something that you can reapply sunscreen properly, because we know that that first morning application of SPF will not give you proper coverage 4 to 6 hours later if you're outdoors for anything more than a few moments. So I think just set yourself up to be able to reapply sunscreen properly so you know you're using the right dose and it's effective through your day. The next thing to think about is water resistance. And I think this is specific perhaps to those who are pigmentation prone, and in particular, again, melasma patients, because The problem with melasma is, of course, that the areas that it tends to hone in on, so top lip, cheekbone and forehead, are often sites that we sweat, and it's so easy to sweat off sunscreen and render yourself more vulnerable. So I think a water-resistant product is designed to stay on and really attach to the skin in a way that gives you meaningful, long-lasting protection. So I would definitely think about embracing water resistance if you have melasma, particularly if it's affecting those parts of the skin. The last thing to think about is iron oxide. And again, that follows on to those with pigmentation. We know that high energy blue light in particular can trigger those melanocytes to release more pigment. So seeking out sunscreen or indeed a higher coverage cosmetic that contains iron oxide will be a useful adjunct to blocking the effects of visible light. I thought it worth mentioning a couple of things that I don't think have to change when it comes to summer skincare. The first is cleansing. I think that everyone pretty much should be using a simple, gentle, unfragranced, non-clogging cleanser, and I don't think that the skin's cleansing needs change particularly from summer to winter, other than perhaps the conscious reapplication of sunscreen. But I think that if you're using the right cleanser, using extra product to make sure that you are carefully getting all that sunscreen off of your skin, and you take your time. Most people rush cleansing, and that is why they maybe fail to get every last bit of their cosmetics and sunscreen off their skin. So just take your time, be methodical, don't miss bits around the hairline and temples, but stick to the same cleanser all through the year. And then the last thing I think that you shouldn't necessarily skip, although people seem to want to put their retinoids away, retinoids. So retinoids are actually, when used correctly in context of proper sun protection, are helpful in preventing the impact of UV from harming your skin. One of the effects retinoids have is to reduce the upregulation of matrix metalloproteinases in the skin, which is really one of the main mechanisms whereby UV chomps up our collagen and elastin. So I think it's important to see that, particularly if you've got acne, that the benefits of using retinoids all year round will far outweigh any downsides if you're careful and, as I say, take smart sun protection advice. I would say the exception to that would be where you're outdoors for prolonged periods of time in intense UV and you cannot adequately protect your skin. So in those instances, I would say park the retinoid for the duration of that period. But for the average individual, like myself included, even going on holidays or it's just sunny in London over summer, I make no change to my use of retinoid. Why would I want to lose all those lovely benefits? So I'm perfectly comfortable with you continuing your retinoid through the summer. So that's how I go about changing up a skincare routine for summer. So whether you're staying at home or you're managing to get away, I hope that gives you some ideas and some confidence in building a summer compatible skincare plan. Bye for now.